Hello, everybody. I'm a little bit under the weather here, but hopefully my voice will stay for the entire video. This one should be relatively short. So if we're working on lines or line segments, there are three types of things that we could be dealing with. So the first of which is called a line, and a line goes infinitely in both directions, meaning it will never stop. So down here, this would be a line, and we could call this line EF, or we could write it as an E with an F, and then we draw a line over the top of it. A segment on the opposite side would be things that stop on both sides. So over here, this would be a segment. So we could say this is segment AB, or we could do AB with a segment over the top, meaning it does not have arrows because it stops at these 2 points. So then halfway between a line and a segment is what we call a ray. And this would be a ray. It's a ray CD, or we would draw CD and then we would put a dot here and then a line going from C to D, just like the figure itself. So that's the important distinction. Segments stop on both ends. Lines go infinitely on both ends, and then a ray is halfway in between. So I want you to try to label each of these accordingly. So this one should be segment AB. This one will be ray ED, with the arrow going towards the D, not the E. This one should be line HI or IH. With lines, they can go in either direction for the letters. This one is line MN or NM, could be backwards. This one is segment GH, or it could be flipped. And this is ray XY. So the order of the letters only matters in a ray. Segments and lines could be written in either order. Okay, if you have questions, make sure you ask me. Lines that are parallel will never touch. They'll run infinitely in both directions, and they have the same slope. This should be a review. Just a point. And intersecting are two lines that cross anywhere. So lines are going to be either parallel or intersecting, and if we're in 2 dimensions, which we will only be in 2 dimensions for the beginning of this unit. Now, angles, we're going to work on measuring angles later, but for now I just want to label angles. And there are 2 ways to label these angles, technically 3, but we're only going to work with 2. So the idea is this angle could be here, angle B, but the truth is the angle is going to be made by rays in 2 separate directions. Therefore, we need all 3 letters to be involved. Therefore, this would be angle ABC, or angle CBA. The only thing that matters is this angle here has to be the middle angle. So for these, I prefer them to be written this way, but the IXL activity I'll give you wants them written multiple ways. So for this one down here, I would prefer angle, and in geometry, if you have a shape or something, always write it out. GMP, or angle PMG, or just angle M. Those are the 3 separate ways to write this. 3 definitions here. Vertical angles are opposite sides. And the reason why they're called vertical angles is, let me give you an example. So if I have these angles here, let's say angle 1 and angle 2, they are going to be equal and opposite sides. And the reason, one sec, let me pause this. The reason why these would be equal to each other is if I took this line and I moved it and I adjusted, no matter what, angle 2 and angle 1 are always going to be equal. If you notice, these opposite sides will also stay equal no matter how I move this. So like if I was able to turn that. So vertical angles are opposite and equal. So on this one up here, 1 and 2 would be vertical, or 4 and 3 would be vertical. Complementary, by definition, then add to 90 degrees, and supplementary, add to 180 degrees. So these would add to a right angle, or a box, and these would add to a straight angle, or 180 degrees. Therefore, on this picture up here, none of these would be complementary angles, but 3 and 2 would add up to 180 because it makes a line. 1 and 3 would add up to 180 because it makes a line. But 3 and 4 are not supplementary because they're vertical on opposite sides. So looking down here at the picture, if I was looking at angle 1, the only vertical angle would be 4 because they're opposite sides. Angle 5 and 3 would not be vertical because this line comes through 3 to make it smaller than 5. So only 1 and 4 are vertical. Now, complementary, angles that add to 90, we notice that 1 and 2 would add to 90. But that would be it. Supplementary angles, 1 and 5, would be supplementary because they add to 180 degrees. So, last slide. I want you to name and measure 2 angles that are vertical, 2 angles that are complementary, and 2 angles that are supplementary. All right, so down here at the bottom, since these 3 angles, 1, 2, 3, have to be 180 degrees, that means that this right here has to be 90 degrees. And then down here, because this and this are vertical, that means this has to be 45 degrees. Okay? Therefore, 2 angles that are vertical would be angle CBD and angle FBA. 2 angles that are complementary then, there's multiple options here, but I'm going to do angle CBD and angle DBE. And finally, supplementary angles. This is where it gets a little bit trickier. We have to ignore this central angle here and do angle CBE, and that's a little tricky to understand. But we can make the bigger angle CBE and angle ABC. And those would be supplementary. Make sure if you have questions that you ask me in class.